All right, you've made it this far. This will be week 3 of using Onshape. And in this case, we're going to be back to 3D printing. But in this, I will probably say again, only one of you out of each company actually has to print this, or each company only needs to submit one of these prints. Everyone will need to do their own STL file, but only one print per company, simply because of how long it takes to print these. So what we're going to be designing is a case, or at least a bottom part of a case, for an Arduino Uno. So it's something like this here. Let me turn off the Uno so you can see it. It's a simple plastic case with some feet to hold the Uno up above the bottom, because there's actually some protrusions from soldering. It has 2 cutouts, one for the power supply or jack, and one for the USB. So this is what we're going to be designing today. What makes this unique is we are not going to be measuring anything. We're going to be actually using a model of the Arduino we can get from GrabCad, and then use that to design our part. So that's the idea. Now, there are a lot of models on GrabCad. You can get some crazy ones, like something like this with, hundreds of hours. I don't know if they spend hundreds of hours. It would take me hundreds of hours to design something like this. But for our purposes, we really don't need all of that. We don't need every single pin and crystal and everything else. We just need something that has the USB in the right spot, and more importantly, the board shape, but extra the dimensions really, as well as where these holes are. So that way that'll allow us, let me hide that again, to know where to put all of our parts, or to put all of our feet and things like that to design it with. So let's go ahead and fire one up, and we'll go from there. Oh, by the way, I found a bunch of them on GrabCad. One of them is already in the file section here. It's this Uno IGS file. That's the one we'll be using for our part here. All right, so let's create a new document. We'll just call this Arduino case and get started. All right, first thing is we're going to need to bring in an Arduino, that file I just showed you, that IGS file. So we're going to go down here to the plus button, import. You will need to have downloaded this already from our file section. So if you haven't done that first, you'll do that now, then come back and you can grab it out of here. So I'm going to grab this IGS file, click open, and then a couple of options here. I'll be honest, it took me a while to figure out what they were talking about here, but we're going to do this in a import to this document, and we're going to do import models with the y-axis up. I don't know how you would know ahead of time, unless you did it and it came out wrong, how they designed it. So this one comes out better with the y-axis up. So go ahead and import it. That other one, this one was 2 meg, that other one was 20 meg. So there's a huge difference in what sizes we're working with for the simple models versus the complex ones. Notice I just went from importing to created. Close that up here. And then it doesn't come in this studio. It actually comes over here to the Arduino Uno. So there is the simple model. It's nowhere near as nice as that other one. That's pretty obvious, but we don't need it to be. First thing, though, we would like to do, or at least I would like to do, is I would like to turn this 90 degrees if possible. So what I'm going to do is pick all of the parts, and then I'm going to go over here to transform. And then what I want to do is rotate it. And I can pick an axis, but I can also pick what's called a mate connector. And I'm just going to select the center right there. And then not 30 degrees. I don't know why it defaults to 30. That's kind of a weird, but I want 90. All right, give it a second. So now, and this may be just me, but now it faces the front plane. The top is still the top, and then the right side, in my opinion, is the right side. All right, let me turn off the planes here. And now you'll notice this is part 1, and we will be turning this off and on as we go. But right here, this little eye, this part 1, in fact, I'll probably just rename it now, maybe call it board. so I know what we got. All right, so what we're going to do is actually design and build the case around this, and that's why we're going to turn it off once we have our kind of all the useful pieces for it. So what do we want to do? Well, if we think about it, or if I think about it, we're going to need little feet here dropping down about 2 or 3 millimeter. Let's call it 2 millimeter. And then after that, I'm going to need my case underneath it. So what I'm going to create first is a work plane or a plane, offset plane here, and I'm going to drop it down 2 millimeter. So it creates a plane underneath the Arduino by 2 millimeter. All right, so that's what I want. I'm going to hit sketch. I'm going to select that plane. And then all I really need for now is this shape of this board. So I'm going to click use, and I'm going to click on the bottom of this board. Now you might not be able to see it, so I'll turn off the board a second. It brings the entire board shape in. What it did not bring in, and we will need later, is it did not bring in those holes. That's kind of weird. I thought it would, but it doesn't. It just brings in that outline. Okay, so that's what I want. I'm actually going to keep that turned off now and flip this up and then finish my sketch here. So that is the shape of the board. I didn't have to measure anything, which is huge. So now what I'm going to do is build a little spacer around it. So when the Arduino goes into my case, I don't want it to be exactly like, if it's not within a tenth of a millimeter, it won't fit. So I'm going to build a 1 millimeter space around this entire case, or around this board. So what I'm going to do is just click the line tool, and I'm going to draw some rough lines around this whole thing. Just kind of like that. I'm going to pick that one up real quick, and then boom. So there I have just a rough shape around the entire board. So now let's go ahead and escape. I'm going to dimension it. So what I want to dimension is I want to go from this outer point here to this line. I'm going to make it 1 millimeter. Same thing here. I can't pick up this line. I don't know why it's not happy with that, so I have to pick up these points. I'm going to pick here to here, 1 millimeter. Again, from a point to that line, 1 millimeter. And then lastly, it doesn't matter which one of these two you pick. I'm just going to work my way around here, 1 millimeter. So now if I turn that board back on, you can see I have a 1 millimeter spacing around that. I'm not picking up all of these juts ins and outs and stuff like that. I just want the whole board as a whole. All right, so now I am going to do another set of lines to make the walls. In this case, the wall thickness is going to be about 2 millimeter. So I'm going to click the offset tool, grab this. It wants to come in 5. I want to come out instead 2 millimeter. Same thing here. Bring this out 2 millimeter. Now there's also another way. We'll probably actually, let's do that instead, because this offset tool, I'm going to have to do a bunch of stuff. Let me hit enter. Undo, undo, undo. Let's just draw another rectangle, because otherwise I got to extend lines. So I'm just going to draw another rectangle, escape, and then dimension it. In this case, I can pick these up. I'm just going to dimension it 2 millimeters off of the other one. 2 millimeter, 2 millimeter. So I'm picking up the previous 1 millimeter line and then going another 2 millimeters. So essentially 3 millimeters from the board. All right, that should do it. All right, hit enter. So now this is going to be the board itself, and I'm going to extrude it down 2 millimeters. So extrude, I'm going to pick up this, this, and this. That's the whole thing. It is going down, but I don't want 25. I just want 2. So I created a solid plane, a solid piece of plastic there for my base plate. All right. Now notice when I did that extrude, let me go back here a second. It was new. I wasn't adding to anything. It was a new part, and that's why this came up as part 2. I'm going to go ahead and rename that and call this the case. All right. So now if I show the board and the case, I should have something like this. And if I kind of go at it from the front, you will see it is sitting off of the case, that 2 millimeters from that the plane, the offset plane that I made. All right. So now let's build up that case a little bit more. I'm going to turn the board off again. I really don't need it. I am going to turn my sketch back on though, and I'm now going to extrude that outer part, the walls, up. I don't need a 25 millimeter, but 10 would be good. And that will give me the walls for my case. All right. So to turn that back on again, show you what's happening here. So now I built walls around this to kind of keep it protected. Now you may notice here this USB connector and this power port, it is shoved through the wall. We'll get to that at the end. We'll actually use that file that we downloaded, and we'll cut it out using a Boolean property or maneuver. What do you want to call it? Whatever. I don't know the word for it. A Boolean operation. Okay. So let me turn that board off again. I'm going to make now a new sketch on that plate again. I don't want to use the old one here. So I'm going to use, I could pick up this face here, but I'm just going to do this whole thing. So then I'm going to turn the board back on again and I want to just pick up those circles. So this circle here, the problem is it doesn't pick it up all at once. So I actually have to click twice to do it, here and here. And you'll notice you can sign a C underneath there. I'm going to move down here, here, and here. I don't know why. Maybe it was the way it was made in the other file, but I have to click on both. I'll turn that board off again, and there are those circles. All right. So now I don't want to make them exactly this size. I actually want a little bit of a base plate here. So I'm going to go and do a center point circle on that, and I'm going to zoom right in on the center. That's all I really wanted, and I'm going to pick it up and say that is 5. Same thing again here. Make it too big and then dimension it back. Go to make that 5. Again here, 5. And then again here, 5. All right. So now I'm going to finish that sketch and extrude, and I'm going to extrude. And notice it's going out the bottom. I actually want it up, and I yet again, I don't want 25, I want 2. I'm going to pick those up, this up, and this. Click OK. Oh, notice what happened here. Let me kind of move a little bit. It didn't pick up that back there. I'm going to go back to extrude and edit this. Kind of zoom in. It didn't pick this up because that line was kind of catching it there. I'm going to right click, select other, and then allows me to get that one. It doesn't really realize that I want that one there. Right click, select other, and not that one there. All right, that picks up those little pieces. Probably doesn't matter, but have it anyway. All right, so the last thing I want to do for those little feet, let me put the board back on for a second so you can kind of see that there. It's sitting right down on it. All right, turn the board back off again. I'll just turn it back on. When I put this board on here, I probably am going to use some small screws to hold it in place. I might not, but I want that option. And the screws really don't go straight into the plastic very well. It works a lot better if you have a kind of a pilot hole that you could drill. But since the printer is going to be printing anyway, I'm going to let the printer basically make the hole by not putting any plastic in that center part. So let me turn the board off here. So I'm going to do one more sketch right on these faces. And since I clicked on this one face, it doesn't know these others exist. So I'm going to click use and just pick them all up actually. And then I'm going to do a 2 millimeter circle on each of these. That'll allow a little bit of room. We're going to punch holes in these to allow so the screw can go in by hand. We can put them in with a screwdriver instead of having to drill them out. All right, so I have those 4 sketches there, 4 holes there. Let's go ahead and punch those out. So I'm going to punch this one, this one, now notice right now it's going upwards because it's stupid, but I want to go the other direction, and I want to remove, and I don't want to go 25 millimeter. I will just go, let's say 3 millimeter. All right. And that will punch holes in there, but it won't go all the way through. I think it's 4 millimeter total. So if I hit the tape measure here, from this face to this face, yeah, it's 4 millimeter. So I just wanted to go 3. It'll leave a little bit of room there. All right. So that's basically it. Turn off any sketches I had going on. I think that's up that one. Okay. So now let's put that board back in there one more time. And now we can see I still have to cut out that part there. There's a few ways to do this. The Boolean is one option. That might be a little complicated, so I might try another method so that way it's not as confusing. I'm going to do a sketch right on the face of this, and I'm going to use this part. So I'm going to use, now if I just pick up this face here, notice it's kind of rounded. So what I might do is just say, I don't know if it'll let me use the whole board, probably not. So I'm going to pick up the far edges here of that, and then also pick up the face of this. So turn that off now. And that one, because of those rounded edges, we zoom in here. Because of those rounded edges, it didn't pick up all of this, but that's okay. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger anyway. If I just cut out exactly that, it has to fit exactly right, and that might not be the best. So I'm going to do a little bit bigger on both of these and then dimension them back to what I want. So from here to here, I'm going to do a 1/2 millimeter, and that will be my general dimension all the way around. 1/2 millimeter, 1/2 millimeter. Oh, I already picked that one up. That would be over dimensioned. Dimension from here to here. Oh, get out of there. Dimension here to here, 0.5. And then lastly, here to there, 0.5. So that's that one. And same thing here. From this corner to here, it's going to be 0.5. From here to there, 0.5. I probably didn't need to do that top one, but 0.5. And then from here to here, 0.5. All right. Sketch could not be solved. All right. Oh, it's because I doubled this dimension here. Delete that one. There we go. All right. So now we just need to punch holes through that face. So extrude. I'm going to punch a hole through there, there, and there. I want to remove. And we will just say, instead of blind, we'll go up to face and then pick the back face. You could also just type in like 5 or 6. You don't want to go all the way through because it would actually punch holes through the back. So we'll just pick that much up there. And that's it. That's my part. We're coming close to 20 minutes here, so that's probably plenty. Put my board back in there. You can see has a little bit of space there. It looks like a little bit too much on that one. I don't know what happened there. That's not going to hurt anything. Let me go back a second. That was kind of weird. I must have picked up a little bit too much. All right, well, one way I could fix that is I could measure. Let me get the tape measure here and go from this corner or this face to here. That's 1.6. That's about 1 millimeter too much. So I'm going to turn that board off there a second. Hit escape. And I'm just going to extrude this 1 millimeter up just to kind of tighten that up a little bit. All right. Put my board back in there. I don't know. I must have picked up something wrong, or maybe I clicked on the board as well. I'm not sure. But that's the kind of the beauty of having the model here. You can kind of see where it's hitting before printing this whole thing. Speaking of printing the whole thing, let me turn that board off again. So bye-bye board. We don't need you anymore. Right click, and then I'm going to export this and save it as, whatever your last name is. And then I have it here as, I'm just going to call it case for now. Yes, I'll replace it. And then in Cura, we bring Cura down here. In Cura, let's reload this. In Cura, this is, if I just print this on, like, say, Fred, for instance, and slice it, this is like an hour and a half to print. So, you know, it's not really that complicated of a part, but it's all solid because the base plate is solid, the edges are solid. So my recommendation, if you have the chance, is to switch over to Shaggy. You don't even need to set it to like the crazy extra sprint or extra fast. Just regular old fast is fine. And then if I slice that, it's 45 minutes. So a lot less time. You can also switch over to, like, for instance, say extra fast, and see it takes a little less time. I think it's like 30 minutes or something like that. Yeah, 31 minutes. So that will print pretty quickly. But as you can see, it's almost all solid. There's not much else to it. So Shaggy will get it done quite a bit quicker. And that is an option. But if Shaggy's getting used and you got the time, put it on one of the other three. Just make sure you change your nozzle settings here for that. All right, that should take care of it. Sorry it ran so long. I will be doing this in class, but I wanted this as a fallback in case you ran into any problems. If you have any questions, see me in Evans 127. I'll be glad to help. Thanks, and have a good day.